From the shadows of doubt to embracing the light. Welcome to the journey. Feel the beat in your soul. From caving in to crushing it. Join us, let's roll.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of From Caving Into Crushing It. My name is Deraney, the caregiver mentor, and I'm happy you're here. Today, we've got a wonderful guest, Lou Panzano, and I'll tell you a little about Lou before we bring her on. Lou is an award-winning communication executive with over 30 years of experience in employee communications at global companies, empowering leaders to guide strategic organizational change. After more than 40 years in the corporate arena and a devastating family loss, she left her demanding executive role to do what she loves most, help people prosper. A certified leadership coach, speaker, and best-selling author, Lou's passion today is to empower people to not only lead and navigate change in their business or lives more effectively, but to prosper through it. Wife, stepmother, and grandma, Lou has been a guest on numerous podcasts and featured in several magazines. She just released her first solo book, Cementing Change, Cracking the Code for Communications That Work, and is a featured author in the international bestseller, Cracking the Rich Code, Volume 18 Anthology. Please welcome Lou. Let's bring her in. There she is.
Hello, Drew. It's so nice to see you, and thanks so much for this opportunity. I'm so looking forward to our conversation. I'm honored.
I'm looking forward too. I still remember when we spoke for the first time, and I've been excited ever since to have you on. So thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
So I always thank the person who introduced me to my guest. So today, Barry Cohen gets a shout out. Barry, thank you so much for introducing me to Lou. It's much appreciated, my friend. So my audience knows I always start with talking about how when we're young, we are taught, and it's not malicious teaching, that life is linear. It's a straight path. If we do A plus C plus D in that order, E's going to happen. And for the most part, life is linear. It starts out in that straight path. And at some point, an external circumstance comes in and gets in between one of those letters and derails our straight path and puts it into a more circuitous route. When that happens, that external circumstance, that's called adversity. And when adversity hits, sometimes we see it and sometimes we don't. When we see it, sometimes we want to run away from it and sometimes we run towards it. Because of that, I believe that there's three types of people in this world. You have person number one, who's got so many blind spots, they don't even see the adversity. They're just living the life they've been told to live, and they make no changes. And then there's person number two. Person number two sees the adversity, yet they see it as a barrier. They say they're the victim. Everything is to blame. Life's doing it to them. They can't make any changes. It is what it is. And on their deathbed, they have got a ton of regrets. And then there's person number three. That's the person I have on this show. Person number three does see the adversity too, and in his or her mind says, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. This adversity is an opportunity. It's not a barrier. It's an opportunity to take massive action and become a stronger person in the end. And today, Lou Panzano is that person number three. And for Lou, for the audience and for me, if you please reach back as far as you need to for that defining moment in your life, whether it was the tap on the shoulder, the whisper in the ear, look what I needed when it happened to me, the 2x4 upside my head, that transformed you from person number one and or person number two to the person you are today, and how that transformation impacted you personally and professionally.
Yeah, so thanks, Drew, so much. I mean, I think there are, when you've spent 40 years in the corporate arena and you've reached a certain age, there's a lot of those defining moments. There's a lot of them. Right. The first one that really struck me is, and it's not as recent as you and I had talked about a couple of weeks ago, but it was back in 2004. in 2004, it was the beginning of the year. And like many people, you get hopeful. It's a new year. Let's make it a great one. Well, this one was an especially great one for me because I was getting married at the end of October, in October at the end of that year. So my husband and I were, my fiance at the time, and I were excited about that and making all of our plans. And he had recently sold his house and moved into my townhouse with his son, who is at the time 19 or 20, who stands 6'8". My husband's 6'4", and I'm 6'1". So there's a lot of these big people in a small townhouse. Right. And in January, the first week, we decided to go looking for a new house. And we decided to put an offer on a home, the house we own today. And 3 days later, I lost my job at Prudential. And it was a job I had had since I was 18 years old, right out of school, essentially. Wow. Actually, I had done a couple of summer internships there, but right out of secretarial school, I started there. And it was the first time that I was without a job, and I was never in the outside job market. After I got my secretarial degree, I started at Prudential, and every advancement and every promotion and every job I took was internal to the company. Right. So now here I am trying to figure out how to buy a house, sell a house, get a mortgage without income, right? I might have had a severance, but without income. Right. My husband moved in with his son, who I really didn't know all that well. And it was just an incredibly stressful moment. And we're trying to get married. So then just trying to find a job too. So all of that was happening all at the same time. Okay. And that's a lot of change. And I think there's lists like the top 10, or 7 stressors. Yeah. I had 5 in the first week of January. Like all of that was happening, within the first week of January. And I had found myself so stressed out trying to find a job, selling a house, buying a house, doing all of those things, planning a wedding, that I wound up for the first time seeing a cardiologist.
Oh boy.
And it was just that the one day coming home, once I did find the job with all the stress going on, I remember leaving early because I had such a migraine headache, and I would get headaches once in a while, but not a migraine like that. Right. I probably shouldn't have driven home. It probably wasn't even safe to do that. But right. I got home, I took a bunch of Advil, went to bed and got over it. But I thought that's never happened to me before. And then when I woke up, I had heart palpitations. Mm-hmm. So when things like that happen to you, at the time, I really didn't know how to manage through that kind of stress and that kind of change, and multiple change, one on top of the other. Right. And for me, it wound up, having a conversation with a cardiologist I had never met before. And, my heart was okay. Like there wasn't any strange situation going on with my heart. And they said, you got to learn how to deal with the stress. So when you talk about the different things that bring adversity, mm-hmm. some of that change was exciting change, right? But it's still change. Sure. And, to decide, to start the year off and think you have a job and then you don't, and you think you have a house and now you're selling it, and now you think you have, what your life's going to be like, and now you're moving in with someone who, hopefully you'll have a great marriage. But like all of those things were stressors for me. Right, and it took me, a moment of a health scare to step back away from it all and go, wait a minute, there's a different way that you can manage through all of this. And I came up with a couple of different ways to delegate some things at work, to get some help at work, and to get some help with the house stuff, and with the wedding plans too. Right. So it was just a matter of, how do I manage myself through that? But I think of that as a defining moment for me for a couple of reasons, Drew. It was mm-hmm. such a series of life changes that were all compounded one on top of the other. And any one of those is very stressful. And any one of those comes with a lot of uncertainty and, to some degree, adversity. It's a lot of change. It's scary, yes, right? Now we're going to own a home together for the first time. We're going to be married to somebody for the first time. We're going to start a new job again for the first time. Yeah, right, and that just, all of those pieces individually are enough. But when they're compounded and you don't know how to manage yourself through them, that's where, you wind up in the cardiologist's office for the first time with a real health scare. So that was the first one for me. And I had to learn a lot of things about how to handle stress differently in that regard. But that one comes to mind because there were just so many pieces that layered one on top of the other.
Right. Thankfully, there was nothing wrong with your heart. But you're right. Stress can cause a lot of things, and you're right. And there's positive stress, and there's negative stress. And I mean, a little bit of stress is good for us.
Yeah.
But too much, no, not so much. So you got the other job, so that was good. And did the wedding happened?
The wedding happened. It went over beautifully. We have the house we bought was like a money pit, but we love it now. We've invested a lot of money in completely changing it. And we have very, very happy marriage. And my stepson is now married, and we have a grandson, and like all good. So, yeah, but it was a really, really challenging transformation. And the job change was an interesting one too. If I could dive into that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that too.
Because I had left Prudential as a director of communications for several of their corporate functions. And I wanted a role as a communications lead in another company. So I decided to go with a small pharmaceutical company that was a spinoff of a larger one that was starting a US operation, and they were going to be on their own. So the job title was executive manager, which is sort of an unusual role, but it was like a chief of staff role to the CEO and head of the communications department, which didn't exist. So I thought, well, God, this could be cool. I could, be a bigger fish in a small pond, right? Start a communications function. I was doing employee communications, and they had a PR firm who was handling external. I said, I could learn a lot from them on the media side. Sure. This sounds great. 2 days into that job, I thought it was the worst career decision I had ever made.
Oh, boy.
I was going to be making more money. I had good benefits. Pharmaceuticals, I live in the state of New Jersey, so pharmaceuticals is a good place to be when you live in the state of New Jersey in terms of industry. Sure. But I didn't know anything about the pharmaceutical industry. And I think that happening while I was getting married and doing all of that was just a whole lot of new stress, because I stepped into that thinking that there'd be, of course, lots to learn when you're in a new role, but it just became so overwhelming for me. And I think that was probably one of the reasons why I had that migraine, right? It was partly work, partly what was going on in life. But that job taught me a lot about flexibility and adaptability. Because as we thought we were starting up a business, within 3 months, they wound up deciding they were going to divest it. So we went from a startup to a divestiture in a couple of months. So my role had changed a couple of times in about 18 months while they figured out what they wanted to do. But all I learned through that process was stick with it. Like, stick with it. Trust yourself. No, get help, right? Take care of yourself, get help. But it was just an interesting changeover for me, because then that started a career for me in communications in the pharmaceutical industry. So it's just, every cloud, they say, has a silver lining, right? You have to, I believe it serves you well to go with it. Part of it is, I'm just going to step back away. I'm going to quit.
Right. You could have quit.
I was going to figure out a way to learn and grow and make it work. And that job led me to a role at Pfizer. And then the Pfizer role led me to a role at Bayer. And in each case, it was an advanced role, and, more pay and great benefits and those kinds of things. But I think if I had decided, let me just leave that small pharma company now and go figure something else out, I wouldn't have had that experience.
No, absolutely. Then you wouldn't have had that experience and learned how. 18 months of not sure what's going to happen. That's stressful in and of itself. You're right, sticking with it paid off. So thank you for sharing that. And I don't want to gloss over, though, when I was reading your bio about you got the devastating family loss. Because I'm sure that was another defining moment in your life. And I'd love if you could share that with the audience and how you got through that. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's much more recent. So I wanted to go give you something a little bit further back in my career, but this is much more recent. So my brother, my older brother, who's 2 years older than me, had a debilitating disease for which there is no cure. He had pulmonary arterial hypertension, and he had recently moved to Florida with his wife and his 2 boys. He has twins, and he was making some progress, And then all of a sudden his body just gave in, and we lost him on August 8th of 2021.
Oh boy.
And so we knew his days were numbered, Drew, but we didn't realize, you're never ready for this when it happens, right? This was the first time in my life that I had been bedside when someone passed.
Oh boy.
So my sister-in-law had called me, and she had been my best friend many years before they decided to get married. So she called me that Friday and she said, your brother's not doing too good. And I'm like, well, what do you need me to do? She goes, I think I need you to come here. So I flew to Florida that night, and Saturday we waited. One of his sons was away, and we waited for him to get back. And there's something when you're in that moment where you know that someone's life is ending, that there isn't a thing you can do about it.
Right.
And all I remembered was thinking to myself, what must he be thinking? Like there were so many things that he talked about that he wanted to do, things he wanted to see. My brother struggled through a lot of his life. He was overweight. He was bullied as a kid. He didn't know what he wanted to do when he grew up. Finally, he got into the mechanic space, wound up getting married, having a family, but always lived just paycheck to paycheck, just barely, Yeah. And I don't know whether he had regrets, but I just know that things he talked about that he didn't get to do. And I said to myself right there in that moment, I said, what could I have done to help him live a more prosperous life? Because he saw our younger brother who, had a great career doing, tech training for CRM systems. And he saw me with this, great career in the corporate arena. And he struggled like his whole life, financially and physically. And it was just one of those moments where I thought, I don't know what he's thinking, but this is what I'm feeling right now. And so we go through all the services, and then we get on the plane, we come home, and I grabbed my husband's hand, and I was looking out the window, and I said, honey, life is just too short to not do the things you love most with the people you love most. And it was just a defining moment for me. And I said, you know what? I was going back to a crazy, relentless time at work, introducing a new strategy. So we were handling all the communications around that. We were still in the throes of the pandemic. You'll remember in August of 2021, a lot of companies weren't sure yet. Are we bringing everybody back? Are we going to do some kind of hybrid? So I was on the team trying to figure that out, doing communications across the US for all our employees, trying to keep the business running, while our employees were figuring out what they were going to be doing and what other new change was going to be happening. And I just knew I didn't want to go back to that. Like, I knew what that was like. I knew what I just experienced over the previous week. And I was like, I just don't think I can do it anymore. And that's not serving me anymore. Like my career was a very important part of my life. Now it was like, with my husband being 11 years older than me, and I just lost my brother 3 weeks before his 61st birthday.
Jeez.
I think something's got to give here. And I thought, I don't know yet what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm not even sure when exactly I'm going to pull this trigger, but I made that decision on the plane that I was going to, quote unquote, retire early.
Okay.
And that was a crystal clear defining moment. And unfortunately, we had to have an experience like that where a family member wakes. That's my 2x4 on the second.
That happens. Absolutely.
But it was just, I vowed that whatever it was that I was going to do next, it was going to be to help people learn how to not only navigate through change more effectively and in a way that's safer for them, like health from a health perspective. And just prosper through it, because most people resist change, right? We're kind of wired to resist change. It's in our DNA, because change could mean danger, right? So we back away from it. Even if it's a good change, it's still uncertainty. So I don't know, I'm not so sure how this is going to work. So I think that one of the things about change is that when you have an approach that helps you move through it, and you can stay anchored through it, then that is something that you can rely on, and you can drive the change more intentionally when you have that. When you don't, you're just kind of all over the place, maybe hoping that the world is going to bring you what you need, right? So I had been doing that kind of work to support communications changes
Mhm.
communications for large scale change.
Right.
And then after this period of time, I took about a year to decompartmentalize and defrag my brain and just sort of get ready with like, what do I want to do next?
Right.
And then I just kept thinking about it. I have this change framework. It's worked for me in my personal life. It's worked for me in business.
Right.
Go teach that. I mean, God was telling me. I was
Mhm.
waking up in the middle of the night thinking about this. So a year in 2023, I decided to start my business and figure out what that was going to mean for me.
Good
And
for you.
that was my big change. Yeah.
Good for you. And you know, if thank you for sharing all that. And I'm sorry about your brother.
Thank you.
You talk about what happened in 2004. If you hadn't gone through the 18 months of that challenge, do you think you would have been able to handle the change back in 2021?
You know, I love that question. My gut tells me probably not.
Mhm.
Probably not, because even though this approach to change that I'm talking about wasn't really defined or labeled until sometime in 2014, there are some disciplines that I had learned about and had experienced myself, even as a child, and the way my parents, raised us.
Yeah.
Things are going to happen in your life, and you don't have to. There's a way to go about figuring
right.
out how to work through those, right?
Right.
In a more healthy way, and in a way that helps you grow through it instead of, suffer through it. That's
Right.
the biggest difference. And I did more suffering earlier in my career than I did later in my career, when I started to realize some patterns that helped me move through things more smoothly. I mean, change is always a challenge. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I don't at all. I don't want to
No,
discount that.
absolutely.
And some changes
Yeah.
that happen to people are planned, right? They're things you want to do, and then others
Right.
just come out of nowhere, and they just shock you and put you back on your heels for a little bit.
Right. Right.
And you need to go through those moments.
You do.
And how you recover them
Right.
through them is a different story. Yeah.
Well, with this technique that you've learned, the change management, what would be like the number one thing to start with when change occurs that you may or may not have expected it?
Yeah, I think the first thing is really to just get clear about what it is you really want to do as you go. What's the end goal as you move through that change?
Mhm.
Now, that end goal may change too, because the world never stops changing. I mean, it's almost so cliche, right?
Right.
But what is, in my coaching, I will ask people, what are you looking for? What do you want? What do you want your next thing to be? What is your aspiration? A lot of people don't have an answer. They haven't really thought about the question. And even when I talk with leaders about changes they want to make in organizations, let's say there's a leadership team of 7 people.
Mhm.
I'll ask 7 people the same question, what do you want to get out of this? What's the goal? What's the objective? I often don't get the same answer. So even just getting alignment on what it is we're looking for, what we're trying to get to, becomes a challenge for people. So the more clear you can be about what I'd like to aspire to do, have, be, whatever those words are for you,
Mhm.
try to at least have some idea of what that is. You're probably not going to know how to get there. You're probably not going to know if it's even maybe the right thing for you. But when you have that kind of an idea of what you want your life to be like,
Right.
at least you can start to create a path. Because without that, it's like, we use Waze or Google Maps, right, to take us
Right.
from point A to point B.
Yes.
Well, you turn the app on and it tells you where you are and it shows you streets or maps, but it can't help you until it knows the destination.
Good point.
It can't help you until you know where you want to go. Now, you can change your mind and you can change the destination, but the app is not going to help you get there until you're clear about where you want to go to start from. So that's really the first place to start.
But I love that point about knowing where you want to go. Now, many times in change, emotion clouds your decision-making process, that brain fog. How do you, as a coach, a change coach, how do you help people manage the emotion regulation, to ensure that the emotion doesn't make the decision of where they want to go?
I love that question, because we are an amalgam of our emotions. We, you know, every time somebody says, you know, put your emotions aside, you can't. They're part of your body. Like you can't separate your head from your heart. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
So for me, one of the things that is most effective is to, number one, acknowledge the feeling. Okay. Let people have the emotion. Most of the time, they don't have a trusted place to go. They don't have someone who's not going to judge them. I'm a non-judgmental listener. I'm here to just let you unload. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people do not have a safe place where they feel that they can do that. And you have to, you know, in order to release that, you have to be able to share it. If you're going to keep the emotions inside, they're going to continue to build and bolt. And then what will wind up happening is that you become reactive instead of proactive.
Yes. And the reactivity,
you can't help it because physiologically you've built up. It's like putting gunpowder in a cannon, right? Eventually, you know, something's going to light that flame, and bam, you're going to shoot something, and it's not going to be good for anybody.
No, I love how you can't ignore the emotion, and your nervous system regulation is so important, because that's the first thing that's going to happen is the fight or flight, and to be able to pause before you make a decision and address the emotion, and it takes the power away from the emotion.
Yes, and just breathing, like just
a simple
moment, just breathe for a second. And oftentimes what will happen, especially when I'm working with somebody new, when I'm coaching somebody new, they're just rapid fire, boom, 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 boom. And I'm here taking notes and just looking at their body language. And then somewhere between 7 and 10 minutes, they're like, I'm like, okay, wow, wow, that's a lot. And I think a lot of people do not get acknowledged that for what they're feeling and what they're going through. And those are their feelings. Those are what they're going through. There's nothing I can do to make those go away. You have to feel your way through them. And there are some times when in follow-up conversations, those emotions come back up. Mm-hmm. And when they do, I need to let them happen.
Yeah.
And I need to acknowledge them and give people the space, because unless you can start to work through that, like I wound up working through my emotions in that first example I shared with you, like in the cardiologist's office. Like, that's not where you want to do this. Trust me, that is not where you want to do this. So that recognizing that and acknowledging that, and even in business, you know, emotion and feelings, you know, employees are dealing with a lot of stuff.
Right.
They're dealing with a lot of stuff. And most organizations are going through multiple changes, layered one on top of the other. And people are just trying to figure out what's happening. Do I have a job? What is my job going to be? How is this change going to affect my role, if it is at all? When am I going to learn more? How are you going to help support me through this next change? Oh, and that's change number 1. What about change 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And then they go home and life happens. Like, is it no wonder that people are so stressed out and are having, you know, mental health issues in this country, at least, you know, at alarming rates. So people are trying to deal with a lot of stuff. And this opportunity to talk about it is just absolutely key with somebody you know and trust, and who's not going to say, you know what, Drew, enough, get off your soapbox. Like, nobody needs to hear that.
No, absolutely. No, I'm glad you carve out a safe place in your practice for the emotional piece, you know, and, you know, society tells men to keep it in, you know, especially with men, and that's dangerous for the health of the human, you know. So, you know, and yes, is there a time and a place to not show your emotion? Yeah. But is there a time and a place where it is very helpful? Oh, yes, that too. So there's that balance between when the emotion is going to be, to show the emotion is going to help the situation, and there's sometimes that it might not help. But you need to find that place where you can release the emotion safely, because you're right, bottled up inside, the unconscious is going to take that, and you're going to make decisions off of that emotion that's unconscious.
Yeah, and we've seen plenty of stories and heard a lot of things about when people get to that point and the dangerous situation that they put themselves and others in when that happens. And if there's anything I can do to help bring that back.
Yeah.
And rein that emotion in, and let's work through it. Let's talk through it, and let's let it happen in a safe, confidential place. Then I'm here for it.
Absolutely. So in your practice, do you do one-on-one, or you also do group? You do corporate leadership training too, right? For change management?
Yes, I can. And it's primarily change communications. And I'm making the distinction because change management is its own discipline.
Very different. Okay. So change management versus change communication.
Yeah. So advising on communication strategies for taking employees through change, working with leaders on what's happening in their organizations. And then on the coaching side, most of the coaching I've been doing has been one-on-one. I do have a LinkedIn group that I'll do like a monthly call with, and we do some peer coaching and coaching together, but it's not coaching in the sort of traditional sense. It's more like, here's a topic I know that you've all been dealing with, who going through career transition. That's what that group is for. I see. And let's see if we can help one another work through that. Okay.
So for the one-on-one coaching, give me a story of a success that you've had with a one-on-one coaching for your change communication and how that went.
Sure. I'm going to give you two of them if I could.
Okay. Absolutely.
One of them was a gentleman who was in the CIO role at a large company, and he was that chief information officer role, for those who don't know the corporate vernacular. And he knew that his job was going to be eliminated. And he was a senior vice president level, and was considering what he was going to do in his next chapter. And he received a retirement package, so he was retiring out, but wasn't retiring from life, just retiring from that role. So he came to me because he had 19 ideas about what he wanted to do next. I want to do this. I want to do this other thing. I'm not really sure. I want another CIO role in a large corporation, although maybe I do. I'm not really sure. And so he went through these gyrations. And for him, the biggest win was, let's focus. Let's decide which of those things are most important to you, which are going to bring you the most fulfillment, which are going to, take best advantage of your skills, which ones are going to help you stretch or grow if that's what you want to do. Again, like, what's your intention? Sure. And what we discovered through the conversation was, not only was he able to focus on two main areas in terms of what he wanted to do next, but he forgot that something that's very important to him is giving back, community service. And nowhere in his plan did he have anything about volunteering his time or what he was going to do from the community service point of view. So then he came up with 3 pillars. And that from 19, we went down to 3. And now he's literally charging forward in all of those. So that's one example. Another example, and this I come across a lot, many of the people that I'm coaching one-on-one are in some sort of career transition. Either just like I just described, they know something's coming and I don't know what I want to do next, or they're in a role, they love the work they do, but the environment is toxic and they want to get out, but they're afraid to leave because the job market is probably the most challenging most people have experienced in a long time. The bots are doing all the matching, and it's driving people crazy, and it's very challenging. Or they have lost their job and they're looking for their next role. So those are primarily the people that I'm working with. So I was working with a young woman who was a stellar performer where she had worked before. Leadership change. Now, a lot of the work she was doing was being questioned. She didn't feel like she could be herself at work anymore. She felt like she was walking on eggshells. Her self-confidence had just went from, top performer to, I don't even know who I am anymore. Everything I say doesn't seem like it works. Everything I do doesn't seem like it's good enough anymore. So she had been thinking about leaving that company that she was working for, but then her job was eliminated. So she, on the one hand, she got a severance package, so that was helpful. But on the other hand, she was expecting, because of this great trajectory she had of great performance and doing really terrific, work in her career, that it would take her 2 or 3 months to find something new. She was 7 months in. Over 100 interviews and job applications, some interviews with some companies, there were 7 people deep, and she was just in such an emotional state that she's like, I've never had trouble in my lifetime finding a role. And I don't know what, like, I'm just at my wit's end. I don't know what to do. And what was interesting about that was that what we needed to do in her coaching situation was rebuild her confidence. Because it was the confidence that, on the one hand, she's like, I've done this before, but just not recently, but this is a whole new game. I feel like I'm playing soccer on a baseball field. Like it's just not working. Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of that was getting underneath. Well, how have you handled, confidence before? She happens to be a dancer.
Okay.
So we use the dance analogy a lot. Well, how do you overcome setbacks in the dance world? Well, how can we use those same experiences? What can you learn from those experiences that you apply to this? And so what wound up happening to her was that she did find another position. It wasn't exactly the salary that she was looking for, and it wasn't in it was in academia versus corporate America. So it was a different industry.
Sure.
What was interesting was that there was another role that she was very disappointed that she didn't get. She was the silver medalist a lot. And that really hits your confidence a lot. Like, you're the last 2 candidates and we pick the other one. Right. But for her, she did learn later that one of the jobs that she was not selected for was like for sales communications. And they were going into the national meeting and whatever. It would have been a very high stress moment for her. Probably would not have done well there. She wound up taking a job that was going to give her time to heal.
That's good.
She really needed time to heal because she was still like triggered. She was just still in some sense of, I don't know, maybe PSTD that she was just so wounded, if you will, by the experience she had in their job, the previous 2 years in the job she had. So sometimes that healing comes through in the conversations. Like she didn't know she needed that.
Oh yeah. And it's good you picked up on that because they're not going to be able to get to that destination you talked about until they're able to find out what's going on inside because that otherwise the destination is going to take them to a different spot.
That's right.
They didn't want initially.
Right. And she's thriving there. She's thriving in that
Good.
role. So yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, the audience certainly has captured the essence of you, Mary Lou, and they're going to want to get in touch with you. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
The best way to reach out to me is through my website. It's helppeopleprosper.com. You can learn more about what I do, and my contact information is there. There's a section that says Let's Talk, and I'm happy to have a conversation, or if you want to reach out via email, you can reach me there as well. Beautiful.
And, audience, if you're watching, there's a QR code on the screen that takes you to Mary Lou's website. So you'll be able to go there. So
that's convenient. Thank you.
Absolutely. So anything you want to talk about? You got a book, your solo book is coming out or is recently out.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little about the name of your book, what it's about, and what you want to tell us about it?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. The book is called Cementing Change, Cracking the Code for Communications That Work. And it builds on my 40-year career in corporate America, the mistakes I made, and there are plenty of them, built on stories of my own experience on how to work through change. And it is set in a sort of a business context in terms of how you communicate better during change. So there's a framework, I call it the 4 C's change framework: clarity, connection, caring, and courage. We talked about at least one of those today. But then if you think of those as the ingredients in a recipe, then you also need the instructions. So the second half of the book refers to 12 principles of prosperity, I call them. And what they are behaviors to help you move through change more effectively. So the book has both the instructions and the ingredients for navigating through change.
I love that. And you can apply it to personal life too, not just work life, right?
Absolutely. Because, organizations don't run themselves. People run organizations. Mm-hmm. So if the change is going to work, it starts with you. It always starts with you. Any change you're trying to work through starts with how you handle that change.
Right. Now, where can we find this book?
The book is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and through lots of retailers and distributors who handle nonfiction business books.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that. Anything else you want to share before I get to my last two questions?
What I really just would like everyone to know is that change is never going to go away. We're always going to deal with it. And we could either have a hard time managing through it, or we could anchor ourselves in an approach that helps you better manage yourself or your team or your company through that change. So why keep repeating behavior that doesn't work? Because most of the time people don't make it through change the way they would like to. So give this a try. And I'd love to see people move forward with a better chance of succeeding through change.
Beautiful.
And all of the proceeds of the book go to charity.
Okay.
Because giving back is one of the most important things to me, and in memory and in honor of my brother, that is what the book is designed to do.
No, that's beautiful, Mary Lou. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Last two questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. You're sitting down with 7 to 10-year-old Mary Lou, and you want to give her advice about life. What are you going to tell her?
I'm going to tell her that you can have your life be set in front of you, and you can try to follow it the way you think it's going to be, or you can take advantage of the opportunities that are around you and go a little bit more with the flow. It's okay to not follow the path you think you should be following.
I love that. All right, switch gears, and now you're sitting down with young businesswoman, young entrepreneur Mary Lou, and you want to give her advice about business. What are you going to tell her?
It's not as easy as you think it is. It is very possible to start your own business and to be an entrepreneur. Do your research and get help. Don't do it alone. Mm-hmm. Nobody goes at it alone. There's no such thing as a self-made millionaire, in my opinion. Because even if you were in a garage and you created the best computer software or AI agent in the world, somebody still needs to buy it. You can't go at it alone. So get help, and you'll get through it. And stay close to your passion. Mm-hmm. Love what you do. It won't feel like work, and don't give up. Don't give up.
Great advice. Absolutely great advice. Well, I want to thank you, Mary Lou, for coming on, for Barry for introducing you to me. Thank you, Barry. It's amazing work that you're doing, and I love how you could have just kept all of this to yourself, but giving back, like you said, is part of your mission. You giving your experience and wisdom back to people in the form of your coaching and in your book is so valuable and powerful. I want to thank you for doing that.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank
absolutely.
you.
That there are people out there who needed to hear your story and need to get your book and need to really apply the change communication methodology in your book to their lives. And so I want to thank you for all of that.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate your giving me the opportunity to share this knowledge. It's not going to do anybody any good if it sits on a shelf. Go grab it, learn it, use it, and share it with others. That's what I would say.
Absolutely. And everybody out there, if you ever find yourself caving in, realize that person number 3, the one who faces adversity and sees it as an opportunity to become stronger, you can do it. You can go from caving in to crushing it. Thank you so much for being here today, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and give us a review to help others find it. I'd like you to answer this question. Are you living the life you want to live, or are you living the life others want you to live? I'd like you to think about that for a second, because I strongly suggest you live the life you want to live. If you want to learn more about what I stand for and my services and how I'm able to help many men get out of their own way, please go to my website at www.profitcompassion.com. Feel free to also email me at drew@profitcompassion.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Take care of yourself and choose to write your own story instead of letting others write it for you.